Okay, so I start recording and I'm sharing my screen. Okay. So if you remember, last class, we talked about arrays. Let me just go back a bit. And we talked about an array, which is like, instead of one box, we have one big box that is divided into multiple elements, or you can say many boxes, one beside the other, but all of them have the same name. It's one variable, okay? And the way for us to indicate to which element we're going to is based on the index. So we use the name of the array, we open square brackets, and okay, like we do here, and we say which index, which element in the array we're talking about, and then we either assign into it, or like here, we just print or use its value to put in somewhere else. Okay, so an array is just a variable. It's a complex variable that allows us to store many values together in one place. One important point, notice that when I declare an array, int a, okay, in order for me to know it's an array, I need to add the square brackets. If you have noticed in coding BAT, there is a possibility, okay, I'm just writing it here so you can all see. When I define an array, I can define the array like this as well. Okay, I can write it like this, either like this or like this. Okay, they mean the same thing. The int means what is the base type, what type I'm saving inside the array. The a is the name of the array, and I need to add these brackets to indicate it's an array. Okay, notice I don't say the size here, I just define that it's an array. So either this option, you all see my annotation, right? Yes. So you either, sorry for this is bad. So either you put the square brackets before the name of the array or after the name of the array, but they're always empty. Okay, I saw some of you, when you send me some examples, I saw that sometimes you put the number inside, the size. You can't. Okay, after we defined the variable, we can initialize it with memory. We can say how big is the array. So we do a equals, and we say new. We have to say new. We need to say what is the type again, and then we can give the size. Okay, like 6. From this point on, I can use the array. So as you can see, here I split my declaration into one line, either this or this, and my initialization to another line. In the example we have here in the presentation, the declaration of the array of the variable called a and the initialization of it, meaning assigning a memory and size to it, is done on the same line, but it's two different commands. Okay, it's important to know. Stopping my share just to see you all. Is it clear? Yes? Okay. So remember, I'm defining a variable, I'm saying the type, giving it a name. If it's an array, I need to put square brackets either before the name or after the name, doesn't matter. When I initialize it, I need to call the new operation and assign the value. Okay, not the value, but assign the initialization, meaning creating a new array. And so this is this is the example here. Okay, the new int 5. By the way, if I would call here new double 5, will it work? If I say int a, I'm defining a variable int a, which is an array. I still don't know its size. And then I'm saying new double of 5, of size 5. Do you think it will work? What do you think?
No, unless the first int is double.
No, it will not work. Abdallah, what was the reasoning?
Unless the first int is double.
Okay, so so this is important to understand. When we are defining a variable, an array, we need to say what is the type. There can only be one type for all the elements. So if I define a variable of type int, when I do the new here, I'm actually telling the operating system, which is kind of a manager, a software manager of my computer. We're going to learn about it in the future. I'm telling it, listen, I need to find memory for my array variable. I need to find it, but because it needs to be continuous, I'm going to tell you what is the type. Do you remember that int uses 4 bytes, short uses 2 bytes, char uses 1 byte? I'm sure you don't remember exactly, but do you remember we talked about it when we talked about types? We said how much each one takes in memory. It's in one of the first presentations. So, because int is of 4 bytes, I need an int variable. I have to put in the same type that I'm asking the computer to allocate for me has to be the same as the type of the variable, same base type. So I cannot do new double here because it's a different size. So when I do int a, I need to say new int and then give the number of elements I want. In this case, 5.
But you can do maybe double before, like instead of the int in the beginning and after.
Yeah, if I need
That's
to,
what I said.
if I need to define, okay, so I didn't understand your comment. So if you define the variable of type double, and let's create one, just so we are sure we're all on the same page. So if I create an array of type double b, okay, then when I initialize b, I have to do it with, I need to do new, and I have to say it's a double. I cannot use int here, okay? And then I need to say that is the size of my array. So if I want 10 elements, then I do 10, okay? So whatever the type is, the base type of the array, then my new has to be of the same type. And then the number I give is the size of this array, okay? Very, very important. Questions here? No. Okay. So, yes, go ahead, guys. No stupid question. Please ask.
I have a question.
Yes, Samir.
Yeah, I missed the first class for array, but I tried to read the document. So the number 5 represents the amount of elements that I'll have in an array. Because I'm saying 0, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Exactly. The 5 tells us what is the size of this array, meaning how many small boxes I have in this big box, okay? How many places. And each of these places is marked by an index. The first index is always 0. So the second is 1, third is 2, fourth is 3, and in this case, the fifth is 4. Okay, there's no more. Because I only said there's only 5 in the size. If I would have defined here 15, then I would have A0 till A14. I will have 4 elements that I can use to store data in them. Okay?
Okay, thanks. Yep.
Good. And okay. So I'm going past this. And okay, and then we did this exercise in class. Okay, and then I gave you these exercises. Now, before we go, and I would like, those of you who wish to share their solutions or share where they got stuck and couldn't find a solution. And before we do that, I do want to move on to asking you some questions, okay? Just to follow understanding. Okay, are you familiar with arrays? Let's see. Please, everybody, look at this piece of code. Take a second and look at it. Okay, some questions I have for you. First of all, before I ask you questions, do you have questions for me? Do you have anything that you want to ask here? Anything that is not clear? Anything you're not
yeah.
sure of? Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes, Bob.
didn't get what does char mean?
What is char? Char is a type,
Yeah, and
and
yeah,
me,
this
me,
char,
me is the name of a variable. So I'm defining a new variable, which is of type char, and the name of the variable is me.
oh, okay.
Okay? It's just one variable, it's one box. Okay? This box can hold one character in it. Okay? A char is a character. Okay? By the way, you notice that when I want to assign a character, a literal, you remember what a literal? A literal is a constant, which is some kind of value. So for numbers, I just put the number. Whenever I use a character, a char, I need to put it inside one quotation, not quotation mark, one apostrophe, okay, on each side. Okay, so you can guys jump in. What will the variable me hold after
A.
this code runs?
it will hold A.
What A? There's
Lowercase.
two types of A I see.
The
Lowercase.
small A.
Lowercase,
Lowercase.
lowercase.
Small a. Okay, very good. Why? Because I just took, right? I went to array 3. I saw what is the value inside it, and I assigned it now into the variable me. Right? The equal sign is the assignment operator. I take what is on the right and put it inside the left. Okay. What will array ARR2 hold?
S.
The letter S. Very good. Okay, what will the following output? System out print. Array 0.
A.
Capital A.
Capital A. Very good.
Yeah, lower.
What will happen in the following case? AR equals me, AR5 equals me. What will be, okay, sorry. What will happen in the following case? If I do these 2 lines of code, if I add them after,
Error. Run error.
why?
Because there's no 5, index 5.
Okay, so let's step after step. Thank you, Noam. So first of all, the first line, AR4 equals me. What will happen?
It will equal A.
So we're gonna override what was there before A.
It will be
F.
just a star.
It was F, right? In 4 there was F, so now we put A, so the F disappears, and now ARR4 holds an A. Okay, a small a. And then, Noam, you said ARR5 equals me. What will happen? You say runtime error. Why will you get runtime error? What's the problem?
Because you don't have index 5. You only have until 4. This is the maximum.
Right. Remember, thank you. Remember that when we define the array, we say its size. So we put 5 inside the brackets, but this says, what is its length? What is its size? Because we always start from 0, then if we count 5 elements, we'll see that the last element is of index 4. So remember, index 5 will cause runtime error. Fionn, do you remember how the error looks like, what it said? Because you experienced it. Do you remember what it told you? We can't hear you very well. And it will say out of bounds. Okay, what is out of bounds? If I have a range from here to here and I went out of that range, so I went out of the bounds of the array. I'm out of them, so I went into an area which is not mine. So this is indication whenever you get this runtime error, out of bounds, index out of bound, it means that your code, your logic has a bug in it, and in some cases you go outside where you should not. And this usually happens when your looping doesn't stop in the right place. When you loop, you don't stop correctly at the end. Or when inside your loop, you don't look at the element you're currently on, but you look at the next element or an element before. This can happen. Okay, so when you're looping, it's always recommended that you look only at the element you're currently looking at, not at anybody ahead of you. As you saw in coding bat, sometimes the questions are more complex, which require you to maybe look ahead. But then you need to check your logic and validate that your loop ends in the right place. Maybe an element before the last one or anything like that. It depends on the logic. Are you with me? Are you following what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. What will the following outputs perform? Let's see, what is the following? System out print ARR. What do you think it will do?
Asaf.
Noam thinks it's going to print Asaf.
Like without the changes before, right?
Yeah, without the changes, just looking at the code on our left. Anybody thinks differently? When asked you to print the array, when we had the exercises before, how did you print the content of an array?
You need a loop, no?
You need to loop one by one, right? So
Yeah.
printing an array will never work if you try to print it, except one case, which is this one. When the array is of characters, that's the only time you can try to print an array and it will actually print the word inside the array, because it just prints letter by letter. But if you have numbers, if you have strings, if you have anything else, booleans, you always need to loop, like Jonathan said, and go element by element and print them one by one. You can create your own method that does that and then call that method, but it will be your own code. It's not part of the array. Okay? So Noam, you were right, but on purpose, I want to say that in most cases you would have been wrong. And you're right because this is just because it's an array of characters. Okay? Okay, so this is an important point I want you to remember. Always when you have an array, you need to loop on it. Yes, Kieli.
What about in like the coding bat exercises when they use like the return function? And I think like in
Yes.
the Pi one, it just returned the whole array.
Yeah, returning. Okay, so yeah, it's a very good question. In coding bat, guys, I'm using this framework because it's a good framework to work on your logic. But we didn't actually go into the details of what is the difference between return and output. Output is system out print, right? We're outputting to the screen. Return is not outputting to the screen. Return is just returning whatever we created, the variable that we have, or some value that we need. We're returning it to whoever called us. When we learned in the next few classes, I think it's next class, we're going to start learning about methods. I'm going to explain to you what a method is. Then we're going to go back to coding bat, and you'll see how what you did until now was define a code inside a method that was already defined for you. So right now, just understand the return is not output. It's just returning whatever, returning the result to someone else, to some other code that knows how to print it, okay? And in this case, return can return an array, yes. Printing, outputting, you can output an array only if it's of characters. If it's not characters, you need to loop over it to output one by one, okay?
Mr. Asaf,
Yes.
how do you loop over it?
How do I loop over an array?
Yeah.
this code here. I do a for loop. I create an I, which
Oh.
starts at 0. I always want to start at 0 because the first index of an array is 0. So I never started 1. I always, when I loop an array, I always start at 0. I say that the I is smaller than the length of the array. There is one attribute, which is called length. So every array, if you give it a name, you can do the name of the array, in this case A, dot length, it will give you the length. In this case, it will give you 5. Okay, so I can do I equals 0 as long as I is smaller than A dot length, or I could put here 5, but A dot length is more generic, so it's better. And then plus plus I, or I plus plus. And then inside the loop, and here I told you last time, this was taken from the internet. There's missing opening and closing bracket, a block, because we always want to have a block for an if statement or for a for loop or a while loop. So there should be a block here opened and closed, and inside it, indented to the middle, should be system out print. And what do I print? I print A, the name of the array, open brackets, and then I give the location I want to print. Since the location changes every loop, and which one changes for it, it's the I. So I use the I. So when I do the first loop, it will print A0, which is 10. When I do the second loop, second iteration, I will be 2. So, sorry, I will be 1. I start from 0, right? So A0 will be the first one I print, which is 10. The second one I print will be A1, which is 20. The third one will be A2, 70, etc. Okay? So instead of going one by one, I just write 2 lines of code and I am able to print an entire array. If it's the size of 4 or if it's size of 100, the same 2 lines will always go through it and print it. This is the nice thing about code. The same 2 lines, very generic, can print an array of any size you give me. Okay?
Yeah, I get it.
Good. Okay, so we went through this and now I want to review some. Tamar, yes, before we review, yes.
In the code, the ASAF code, like is
Tamar, I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi or yours, but I didn't hear anything.
reason
I
that
can't hear
the
either.
I
numbers
can't hear either. It's lagging.
are like not in the like regular order of the number, like
Okay, Tamar, I'm not sure I heard, but I think I know what you asked. You're asking why ARR4 is in the middle and not last? That's your question? Well, we'll move to Yana and hopefully Tamar, you fix the connection while we wait.
Okay, I have a question. Like when we
Okay.
have
sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, but Tamar, 1 second, let Yana ask and then we get back to you, okay? Yes, Yana.
Okay, when we have non-defined amount of numbers in array, the first number is like a square brackets 0, and the last number is a square brackets length 1. I have a question why. I mean,
Length minus 1.
length minus 1. Why?
Okay, so let's think together. What happens if I have an array of size 5? What is the last index in the array? The last position?
4.
4. What will, if you have 10 elements in an array, what will be the last index?
9.
Start from 0 and you end up at 9. What will be if you have 100 elements in an array?
99.
So you see the pattern? It's
Yeah, I
always
got it.
the length minus 1.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
because we start from 0. Okay, Tamar?
Yeah, so my question was like, why are the numbers like of the array are like in a different order than like the regular order, and how does it affect the code?
So thank you for that question. The reason I did it for you, for someone to ask the question, just to show you that there's no real meaning. If I add, like when I create the array, it's empty. It doesn't have any. I created 5 elements, but all the boxes of these 5 elements are empty. There's nothing there until I start assigning into them. So I can decide to assign first to the fourth element and then to go to the second. It doesn't really matter. It depends on me. But if I have an element that I didn't assign anything into it, then it will be empty. The reason I did it in this way is just for you to ask a question. If I write a code, I will probably write it 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 because it will be more organized. It will be clearer to me to see that it's written asaf. But just to make you think and show you that the order doesn't matter, I did it in this way. Okay, because each element is on its own. The fact that we call it in the same name allows us to use a loop to actually go element by element, because we need the same name to be used, and then just the index actually helps us to go to the specific element, okay, the specific room in the hotel, you may say. I go to the Hilton Hotel, Hilton room 0, Hilton room 1, right? I can go, and so as long as I'm in the Hilton, I can go through all the rooms in Hilton. Okay, it doesn't matter the order. It's always better to write code that I go in the order if I want to go through all of them. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay. So, anybody wants to share one of the exercise that he felt really proud of himself of being able to solve? Or maybe we'll start with the simpler ones, maybe not proud, but actually want to show what he did. Because I promise you, we're going to see different solutions for different.
I could share.
Jonathan, so which one do you want to share?
Wait, wait, someone can share one before me and then I'll share.
Okay.
I didn't think it through enough.
Okay, that's fine. First, last 6. Anybody wants to did first, last 6 and want to share? No? Doesn't want to share, or no one did it?
I think I did it.
You did it. Do you want to share now?
Yeah, let me go into it. Wait.
So guys, go, everybody, don't wait. Please go into your coding bats. And remember, the array 1 questions are a bit simpler because there's no loops. Arkady wants to share 2, 2. Okay, we'll wait. We'll do that. But I want to start with the simpler ones first. Okay, Arkady? So
Okay.
let's wait.
Can I share?
Yes, no. One from the array 1 exercises. Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing the first.
Last 6. Okay. So let's just maybe you read the question so we remind everybody what is the logic we need to create here.
Sure. Given an array of ints, return true if 6 appears as either the first or the last element in the array. The array will be length 1 or more. Okay. So what I did is, first of all, I created a Boolean named 6 because I want to see if it's true or false. And the Boolean is equal to num 0, which is the first element, equals 6, or num, the last element basically, so it's num length minus 1 equals 6. So if either of them, that's why I used or, is true, then the value of the Boolean will be true. If none of them are true, it will be false, and then when I return 6, it will print out false.
Can you press the go? No, I'm just you can see. Okay. Now listen, the very nice thing about CodingBat is that it gives you some logical questions, which are sometimes the bad thing about it, sometimes the questions are not clear. But then when you run it, you can see all kinds of inputs, like all kinds of size of arrays. Okay, the array we can see as input. By the way, the name of the array that you're giving is nums. You see it inside the brackets. This is called a parameter of a method. We're going to talk about it later on. But so nums is what we got. We don't know, like Yana said before, we don't know what's the size of nums. It can be just one element, it can be 3, it can be empty. It can be 7, it can be 20. Okay, we don't know. So for us to create a generic code, and this is the challenge in coding, we don't know what is our input, but we know what logic we want to achieve, and we want to create a logic that will always work, always. So here we have many different type of tests, and it checks that all of them are working. So very nice, Noam. Your idea is very nice. Well done. Anybody else did it in a different way? With an if statement?
But there are no loops.
Yeah, an if statement, not with a loop.
I can share.
Go ahead, Ellie.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so in this case, I use if statement, saying that if nums, the first term is equal to 6, or in this case, the last term is equal to 6, then we return true, else we return false.
Very good. Now, great. So by the way, this is exactly, you see that both Noam and Ellie did the same conditions, same logic. They both did, they checked if nums equals 6, or the last one, num0 equals 6, or the last element equals 6. They both used an or, and in this case, Ellie just said if this condition is true, then I'm returning true. Noam said if it's true, I'm just returning it. If it's false, I'm just returning it. Both are great. Okay. I think that all of you probably feel a bit more comfortable maybe with this type of code. It's a bit more clear what is the if and what you're doing. Noam took it a step forward and said, I'm saving the result in a Boolean variable and just returning it. Both are valid. Okay, both are good coding practices. Thank you very much to both of you. Sum 3. Anybody did sum 3 wants to share? Someone else? I learned, that if I stay quiet and I'm patient, someone will break.
I did, but
Go ahead, Barbara. Let's go.
no, wait, that's the problem. There's a problem.
We'll help you make it. We'll help you solve it if it's not working. Don't worry.
No, not that problem. I can't share a screen, so I can just like write in the chat or something.
So write it. So copy the code from your to the chat. Okay. While you do that, Abdallah will share his screen. We'll look at them, and then we'll see the differences in your solutions. Okay, if there are. Yes, Abdallah. Go ahead.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, can you just read the question so we all understand what we're supposed to do?
Given an array of n's length 3, return the sum of all the elements.
Okay.
So I just did a variable for each one, and I summed them.
Okay. This is quite a simple exercise. And what else, Abdallah, could you've done without any variables in the same logic that you did here, without any variables? Any additional variables?
I could have just done like a loop that goes with them.
No, without a loop. Without a loop. Exactly what you did here, just without the variables AR1, AR2, AR3.
Nums1 plus nums2 plus nums.
Nums0 plus nums1 plus nums2. Okay, you don't have to put it inside a variable because nums0 is already a variable. Nums1 is already a variable. Nums2 is already a variable. So yeah, you can change it right now just to show us. And then, okay, it doesn't mean that what you did is not good. It's fine. I just want to validate, guys, that you understand. And now just remove the piece of code. Very good. Okay, so this will also work. Great. Good. Thank you, Abdallah. Barbara, do you share in the chat? Is it different? Is it?
It's a little bit different. Yeah, I send it.
Okay, I don't see the chat for some reason. What's the chat? Oh, this chat is very, very okay. A lot of comments in the chat. Public in some, okay, in some return. Okay, so the only thing I would say is that int sum3 equals new int. You create a new array that you called it sum3, but you're not actually using it. So you don't actually need it. You just need the code that actually works is return num0 plus num1 plus num2.
But with this thing, it also works.
Of course, but int sum3 is not used. You're just creating it, but it doesn't do anything. So it works, yes, but you created a line that doesn't do anything. So it's important for me just to, and it's, I'm not saying it to make you feel bad. I'm just saying I want you to learn from it. If you wanted to create a variable that holds the value of all these together, you could have created int sum, which is not an array, just a regular variable, and did equal num0 plus num1 plus num2, and then return that variable, return sum, okay? If you want. And by the way, another point I want to make all of you be aware of, the name of the method you see here is sum3. You see in Barbara's and in Yana's chat, the name of the method is sum3. Try not to create a variable with the same name. It becomes very, very confusing. If you create variables inside, give them a different name. For example, sum, okay, sum1, sum, but don't give it the same name as the method because it can be very confusing. These are two different things. A method and a variable are two different things. And let's look at what Yana did. Nums length minus 3 plus equals, now return nums length. Okay, so Yana, it worked for you? I can't hear you. Can anybody hear Yana, or just me? Not no one. Okay. Yes, it worked for you. Okay. So, but I want to make it's. I really like to share examples because they're very good things we can learn from each other. Okay. It worked, but what did Yana do here? She actually summed up num0, 1, and 2 and put all of them into the last element, which is num2. So she basically overridden whatever nums2 was holding. And then she returned it. So if, Yana, it worked because it was, that was the only thing you had to do, and it's fine. But notice that if you had to use the same array for more things, you just overridden the value of the last element. You changed it. So if you do the same thing again, the value will change. It's going to be different. Okay? Just so you notice. It's better if you do some calculation to save it in another variable, and you don't override a variable that you may want to continue working with. In this case, it was fine, but just to notice for other cases. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. Is there anyone? Sorry, is there anyone that did rotate? Rotate left. Rotate left 3. Did anybody do it? No?
Yeah,
Kieli is
I think maybe I did here, Kaito.
Okay, anybody that didn't share before? So Eli shared. Neta Okieli, you want to share? Neta, you're going for it?
I'm opening it for a second. Oh wait, I didn't find it. Yeah, I didn't. I will share.
Okay, so let's look at rotate left 3. I assume, okay, let's read what it says. By the
I
way,
don't remember what I did though, so
so we'll let you read the question, the logic. I want to remind you guys, if you're not clear on what the explanation means, you can always look at the 3 examples given to you. If still this is not clear, you can just write a very simple code and hit go. Although you'll be fully read, but you can see the logic of what is what your code is doing and what is expected. And from all the examples, you probably will get the idea of what you're being asked to do. Neta, can you read for us what is the exercise?
yeah. Given an array of int length 3, return an array with elements rotated left. So 1, 2, 3 yields 2, 3, 1. So what I did is I created variables to save the current numbers, and I gave them like ABC, which is like the 1, 2, 3 basically. Like it was easy to remember the place, and then I just changed their place in the array itself, and I returned it.
Okay, because you know it's length of 3, you always know it's 3, you can actually perform this and save these 3 in different and just change. Very nice idea. Remember, guys, what rotate left, the meaning is that everybody moves a chair to the left, and the one who's on the first, chair 0, goes all the way to the other side. Okay, it's like a round robin. So, okay. Can you hit go just so to show us?
Oh, sure.
Okay. So 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1 becomes 0, 1, 0. 1, 2, 1 becomes 2, 1, 1, and okay. Very good. Thank you very much.
I did it the same, but you can only do it with one variable that saves the value.
You say you could do it more optimized and save it in one variable?
I mean, you need to save only one value because like it doesn't interrupt each other. So you can save only, for example, int 0, the index of 0, and then like assign it.
So what Noam is saying, I can take the number that sits in the position 0, I can put it in a temp variable. I can move 1 to 0, the variable that sits in 1 to be in the variable 0 position, the 1 and 2 to move it to the 1, and then move the temp variable into the 3. Yes, Kiele just showed us how she did it in the chat. Yes, so this is also an option. What Neta did is fine. This is another solution that uses less variables, which is also fine. Okay. Again, no one solution. Usually you have multiple solutions. Juan did this. Nice. What Juan did, he created a new array, just reordered them, very nice, and returned the new array. Very nice. So he actually created a new array, reordered the numbers in it, and returned the new array. Very nice. Okay. Notice, guys, that each one of us usually has one default or one initial way of thinking, and we usually go with that. The idea of sharing these ideas and sharing logics allows you to become more diverse in how you think, okay? And look at additional options. Okay, let's go to two loop questions. Can we? Two loop questions. Anybody did count evens? Anyone?
Yeah, I did.
Jonathan, go ahead.
Okay. Why can't I see?
Now move to another tab. Move to
Here.
yes, yes. Okay.
Which one did you say?
Count evens.
Okay. So
Explain
I
explain the problem before you explain the solution, okay?
okay, so return the number of even ints in the given array. Note the mode the operator computes the remainder. Okay.
With you yes.
Yeah, so we're gonna return the amount of even ints. Right, that's the problem. So first I wrote a variable called even, and I made it equal to 0. Then here I created a loop, and I said if nums I mod 2, meaning if we take away 2 all the way down to it equals 0, meaning it's a multiple with 2. Basically, if nums I is even, in other words, then even equals even plus 1, because then it means we have one int that is even, right? So, and then I just did return even.
Very good, Jonathan. Just very nice. Just few things I want to ask you guys, not only Jonathan, all of you. Jonathan created here a variable which is called even. Is this, you remember we discussed a bit about two types of variables in when we work with loops. One is a counter and one is accumulator. What is even, the even variable here?
It's a count.
Is
It's
it a,
both, I think.
yeah, okay,
Because it holds the value but also counts it.
okay. And what is the I?
The I is a counter.
The I is the counter that we count the loop. The even, you can say accumulates the number of evens, but you can also argue that it's just counting the number of evens. Okay, so if we would have add up the values of the even, right? If that was the question, to count out to sum up the values of the evens, then it would be a clear accumulator. But here, because it's more counting, that it's more of a counter than an accumulator. And Jonathan, very, very good. Anybody did this differently?
I did the same, but with a while loop.
You want to show us?
Sure.
Okay. So we have two variables, I and N. N is the one that is counting the evens, I understand. And I is the one that actually goes to the entire array. Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, looking at this code and looking at Jonathan code, without without talking about better or not better, but where do you feel the code is clear for you to understand? The while loop or the for loop? And again, it's subjective. I'm just asking what
Mine is obviously more understandable from God.
for you, of course, but others.
I'm kidding.
Anybody?
I would say the for loop.
The for loop, Orion?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Why is it clear for you, Orion, the for loop?
It's just simpler. I don't know.
because I think maybe I'll help, maybe because all the dimensions of the loop, everything that involves the looping is inside the round brackets, the initialization of the variable that counts, the checking if it's smaller or different in this case than the length, and adding to it, the incrementation is all in one place. And here it's spread in different places in the code, right? So I think that's what makes a for loop clearer than a while loop when you know how many times you need to loop, okay? Again, here I don't know exactly the number of times. I know there's a variable that can tell me that. But when the looping is unknown, it's based on the user or based on inputs that you get from somewhere, then you have to use a while loop. Yeah. So Abdallah changed it. By the way, Abdallah, one more thing. It works, I know, but it's always better to do I smaller than that length, because you're showing that you're growing and getting to it, okay? If you just say different, if for some reason in your code you jump over the length and your I becomes suddenly 7, if you wrote some code here and you did I equals 7, you added a bug. Your loop will continue forever because it still will never reach the size that you said, the size 5, for example. But if you say smaller than, if someone actually by mistake added to your code something that made it skip, it will stop immediately. Okay, that's why smaller is always better.
What's missing here?
What I don't see
int before the I.
Int I, yes. And a semicolon after the 0. So in a for loop, in a for loop. Yeah, for loop has 3 parts. Okay, remember it has 3 parts: creating a variable, initializing it, the condition of continuing the loop, and
I think you also don't need. You don't
There's
need
still
the
like
semicolon
extra
after
items.
Yeah,
there's an extra semicolon at the end after the I++. You only have to have 2 semicolons just to separate the 3 sections. Okay, so that's all. Good, great. Thank you, Abdallah. Okay, because we don't have a lot of time, I want to give you an exercise. Okay, so Arkady, I apologize, we didn't reach the 2-2, but next time. I see we have 5 minutes, and I want you to think in these 5 minutes. So I'm sharing my screen. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I want you in the 5 minutes we have, and maybe we'll go a bit farther, but you don't have a class after because you don't have class with me, right? So worst case, we go a bit after. I want you to look at this code and perform a trace table that will allow you to show what is the output, what is printed in the end. Okay, so I want you to create a trace table. I remind you, a trace table should hold a column for each variable that changes. And in case of an array, I recommend to write 1 column for it with raise time, in this case, raise time with the I position. So whenever the I changes, you'll show what value you're looking at. Okay, if I wasn't clear, I'm just gonna do it here on the side just to make sure you understand me. But do it in your notebook, okay? So if I have a variable called min, I'll have a column for min. Okay, and if I want to have a column for my array, I'll do raise times at I. Okay. Okay, so if I is 0, then in raise times 0, I will put whatever is raise times 0, which is 6.4. Anybody has any questions? You good? Okay. If you have questions, you can post them in the chat as well, if you feel more comfortable. Ah, there's Spanish class after? Really? At what time?
3:40.
At 3:40, okay. Okay, so we'll do the following. So I apologize. We'll do the following. I'll give you this as homework. Okay? Try to trace this table. I'll open a task in ManageBack and you just submit it. I assume that for some of you it can take 3 minutes, for some of you it may take 10, 15 minutes. I'll open now the task and before I let you go, just if you have any questions, anything you want to raise.